Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything you do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. If you're interested in buying ttrpg stuff, dice bags, accessories, use the promo code Sinister and use Dice Legion. The website is in the description. All that out of the way, we're talking about bugbears. The bugbears are a very big, very scary, very physically daunting species. They are part of the goblinoid family, so they run along with hobgoblins and goblins, and hobgoblins being a personal favorite of mine. They are big, scary, and incredibly lazy, and they really just don't care a lot of the time. They really just want to lay about and do whatever they feel like, but they're very scary on the battlefield. They're originally in Volo's Guide to Monsters, and they were buffed a little bit, and when they were put in Monsters of the Multiverse, we'll cover it, but the only real thing they get is Fey ancestry, so they get advantage on the charm condition. Outside of that, it's exactly the same as the Volo's Guide. But if you're interested in goblins, there's a lot of great lore behind it, and you definitely got to check that out. Your base abilities as the bugbear are: you get a medium size, you are aligned usually to chaotic evil, you are incredibly just wild, and you do whatever you want. Your medium size, your move speed is 30 feet. You do have dark vision, which is great, especially considering how your bugbears are kind of designed to be. They're not exactly charged forward and beat you up kind of monsters, which is really interesting considering how big and how physically demanding they are. Like they are an intimidating presence, but they're not really designed to be like that. Long-limbed. When you make a melee attack on your turn, your reach for it is 5 feet greater than normal. That means if you're wielding a Morning Star, you are wielding that at 10 feet. If you're using a glaive or a pike, you're at 15 feet. That is a big area to be in. And if you take things into consideration like Polar Master and Sentinel, that is a big area that you can lock an enemy down. And it's very, very, very profound. They're the only species that has something like this, and it's a very interesting concept to use. Sneaky. You are proficient in the stealth skill. This is a little bit of an unusual concept considering how huge you are. I mean, when you're rocking out between 6 and 8 feet tall and 250 and 350 pounds, you are a beast. You are massive. But there is a really great reason as to why they are stealthy. They're meant to make surprise attacks. They're meant to jump in and just cause disruption and chaos and tear everything apart. That's kind of what bugbears do. Usually the goblinoids races, the way they fight is they send hordes of regular goblins. And once they've drawn the ire of whatever they're fighting, then the bugbears drop in. And they drop in and cause great rampant destruction wherever they are, which means they're usually pretty close to the front lines or in the middle of the battlefield without being detected, which is pretty impressive, all things considered. And then outside of that, the hobgoblins just kind of, manage the whole combat. Usually that's kind of how their tactics work. But that does lean the bugbear into being incredibly dangerous. Surprise attack. If you surprise a creature and hit it with an attack on your first turn in combat, that attack deals an extra 2d6 damage to it. You can use this trait only once per combat. Here is what's really important. That is why you are stealthy. That is why you are long-limbed, because it gives you a greater variety of range to use your abilities. It's all built around surprise attack. Now, surprise as a mechanic is very difficult to achieve. You need a team that works in unison. You need a team that is organized. And the reason why that works so well is because hobgoblins exist. I love the hobgoblin, and I'm just going to talk about how great they are. because they organize the goblinoids and the hobgoblins and the bugbears. And the bugbears are lazy; they really don't want to do much, and the goblins are kind of just squirrely. But the hobgoblin keeps such a tight rein on everything that they can set things up that the bugbears actually can't succeed greatly. And they have this ability because of their innate unison with the hobgoblin. I think that's where this really comes from. And their purpose is to be scary shock troopers that show up and dismantle everything. And the best way to do that is right off the bat. Round 1, surprise combat. Getting surprised and doing a surprise combat is rather difficult. You have to set it up. You need something to draw the enemy in and set up an ambush. It takes practice. It takes patience. It can absolutely be done, but a lot of the times as players, we kind of just rush and we run and we run and we don't think tactfully about pulling the enemy to us, advantageous positioning, setting up choke points, things like that can very, very easily make combat significantly easier. If you were an assassin bugbear, that first round of combat on a surprise, not many things are going to survive that. And that means that your next round of combat, when the enemy can actually be active, they are so weakened and they're in such a terrible state that they really don't have a chance to do much to you, which saves your resources, which saves your HP, which makes your next combats easier and easier. If you can get a surprise round in a dungeon dive, you can make a huge difference in how the last fight of that area makes out to be, because you save resources, because you have more power at the end of it than depleting things as you go through, because that extra round, that one surprise round, can take apart 1 or 2 enemies. Our final thoughts. The bugbear is surprisingly designed really well to be a rogue. With all the skill proficiencies you get as a rogue and starting out with being sneaky, you can now jump into some of that other stuff. The availability to surprise is important. If you're with a team of players that can actually do that or understand the value and can strategically set up circumstances for that, the bugbear now goes significantly further. If you don't have that, then the bugbear really doesn't benefit you as much, because you'll never be able to get surprise attack off. You just won't. It just doesn't happen. And that reasoning greatly weakens the strength of what a bugbear is. A lot of time, especially with min-maxers, they look at these concepts and these abilities and they just tack on damage. And yeah, it's great for a first round. If you were like a paladin or something and you ran in there, surprise attacked, hit, drop this, drop smite, that's a big amount of dice you're rolling. And you could do it at quite a distance of range. You can drop that at 15 feet. That's pretty impressive, all things considered. But it's useless if you don't take the time and strategize outside of combat to make these combats easier. And it's something that can be done. You need the right kind of role-playing of your party in order to do so, to really make it work. Yeah, you could do it with out of combat, just strategizing and just telling your party members what you want, whatever. But it loses that great opportunity to discuss with party members what they want their roles to be, what they want to be. Like, don't get me wrong, you could be a melee healer, you could be a melee cantrip caster, you can be a ranged damage dealer, whatever you want to do. And a lot of the classes have varying options to make that possible. Sometimes the paladin doesn't want to be the tank and more wants to focus just on DPSing, like sometimes the paladin doesn't want to use smites and just wants to use their spells. Sometimes barbarians want to just deal damage and not be forced into being the first one to run in. It's a great way to know who your characters want to be in a party and how to best make that happen. The more experienced of a player you are, the easier it is for you to see, oh, they want to do that. Well, maybe it's better for them to hold back a little bit and wait for the fight to come out and then come in. Maybe they want to be the off tank, and maybe they want to jump in from the opposite side and go around. Like maybe that's something they've always wanted to do. They never mention it, and this gives you an opportunity to talk that out and discuss plans. This is why the goblinoids are really just so well designed in my mind. Because the bugbear kind of fit in that, like, look, I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing. But the hobgoblin is there to go, no, for you to be at your most optimal, you have to do this. And the best way for that to happen is for the goblins to be squirrely and be crazy over here. And that sets up the opportunity for you to have your moment. And the goblins, the goblinoids work out so well together that it's just, I would love to play a game where like I get to be a hobgoblin and there's a goblin and a bugbear in the same party. I would just be fanatically drooling the entire time because it'd be great to have that built-in cohesiveness. But taking the time out to roleplay these things and to plan out is going to make everyone better. Everyone gets better with a surprise attack round. Every single member of the party does better with a surprise attack round. Healers don't have to heal as much. They can actually deal some damage. Buffers don't have to buff as much because that extra round can be used to just debuff the enemy and greatly take people off the field. You have this great opportunity to surprise the enemy, to jump them, and maybe get to the more vulnerable targets first. It's just, there's such a benefit to it, and it requires the time necessary to talk it out. And talking about combat while role-playing is just as unusual as role-playing during combat. They just don't mix well because it takes you a little bit of practice and getting involved in it to do it. But doing so changes how effective the bugbear is by a huge margin. And I really encourage people that are considering playing a bugbear or know that there's a bugbear in the party, someone take that leadership role and try and bring that about. That being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. Big thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do is amazing. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, definitely hit the link in the description. Thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code Sinister and get 10% off all of your purchases. That all being said and done, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.